the way, and that can sound like a campaign slogan, but it's very true.
Now we're approaching the most important battle of our lives.
Playing field, and then we can discuss unity.
Well, hello everyone, and it is CaptKyle here, and we are in the end game. Thank you, and I'm glad that you're here, and we have a wonderful superstar guest. It's Kerry K. I love you so much, and Kelly, and we are going to talk about so many incredible things today, and I am so excited. I'm always excited to just be in the presence of like-minded superstars like Kerry is, and I just love her so much. And you know, we were talking before we got started, and we just had to stop because we just couldn't stop. Kelly had to say, hey, whoa, y'all gotta stop it. It's just how it is. And you know, when you get around individuals that have the same frequency as you do, it's like an old lost friend, and you just start communicating. It's so beautiful, and I love it. Welcome, Kerry.
Thank you so much, Captain. It's so good to be here. I love this trilogy: Kerry, Kelly, and Kyle. It's the triple K.
That's right.
That's awesome. And Kelly, thank you so much for putting everything together and to always just continually be diligent through all that we go through. And it can't be said enough for you and all of the admins here. We so appreciate you very, very much.
Thank you, Captain. We appreciate you. Great
So
leader.
before we get started, let's bring the Spirit into this conversation because that is what is most important here. Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, I just ask that you bring forth your discernment and allow your people to hear and to see those things in which you want for them. Because that's what's so important right now is that they make a connection with you and allow what you're doing in their lives to bring forth your fruits and not to resist those things in which you're trying to obtain in their life. Father, we just thank you that you're pouring out your Spirit all around this world and to all of the people, not some of them, but you're pouring it out on everyone. And we thank you for it. Lord, I ask for a hedge of protection around this call, everyone that is on it. And Lord, I ask for a protection around our leaders and those people that are doing your work all around the world, those that are seen and unseen, because that's as important as the ones that are out in front, is those that are undergirding it from behind. And Lord, we couldn't do any of these things without you. Father, we just thank you. We praise you, and we want this to magnify and glorify you that you're allowing us to participate in your plans. Father, we thank you for it. We praise you. In Jesus' name, amen.
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 Well, all right. So we can get started now. You know, there's so much that's going on in this world, and I want to kind of set the stage here to where we want to go to start with. I know all of these wars and economics and all, we'll get to that, but there's something that's way more important, actually, and that's what's actually happening to you physically right now. I went through a really difficult time about 2 weeks ago to where I was just emptied out. I couldn't explain how I was feeling. I was so blah, exhausted, ran down, tired. I couldn't sleep but 2 or 3 hours at a time, even though I was exhausted. I wasn't dreaming like I normally do. And I was really self-isolating myself as well because I didn't want to be around anybody. I didn't want to be around my wife. I just was yuck. And I didn't understand it. I do now. And then yesterday, or a couple of days ago, my wife said that she was feeling depressed and so on and so forth. Well, we've been having some really bad weather and so on and so forth. And a lot of times that happens with the weather changes because of how barometric pressure changes your frequency of your body and how it just kind of runs you down. But then a few hours later, she got more descriptive in what she was feeling. And because of that, I told her, oh, no. I know exactly what you're feeling. You're going through exactly what I've been going through. And that pressed out of and then was revealed to me what it was. And in that, it's like one of the things that started my recovery out of it was making a conscious decision, even though I didn't want to begin to look at my life with gratitude and the things that I was being asked to do with a grateful heart, that I was able to do them and to be grateful that I was able to. And I'm just telling you that within 24 hours, I started recovering and just changing exponentially. And I spoke to my wife about it, and, you know, she's on that path of her own because we're all on our own individual journeys, right? Collectively, but individual. And so with that, you made a really good video that you put out yesterday. And basically, I'd like for you to speak to this without me having to try to explain it because you do such a good job, even though I got the full explanation and definition of why this was happening. So, floor is yours, honey.
Thank you so much. You know, there is so much light coming into our field right now, and we can call that light by so many different names. We can call it God, and some people would say, oh, it's the universe, and we could call it love, and we could call it truth, and it is all of these things. We're not used to that, though. We're used to living inside of a veil. And we've heard this word before, right? Like the veil of separation, the veil of illusion. We even know that when we die, we cross over through the veil. But that veil had far more of an impact on us than we realize. That veil kept us separate in our hearts, in our mind, in our world, in our realm. It kept us separate from God, the place that we come from. And we lived inside of a world that was taken over by archons and all of their nefarious beings. They ran our political system, they ran our monetary system. Our eyes perceived all of this dysfunction as normal because we had this veil separating us from divinity and from truth. We lived under that veil pretty much since we were born until 2012, where slowly, the veil started dissolving. And now it's weakening so much that it's letting in support that we couldn't feel before. Love, divinity, messages. And our body perceives what our brain cannot. Our brain can't yet make sense of this, but our body starts feeling weird, overwhelmed, sometimes anxious. Our bodies can start to experience all of these symptoms that we're trying very desperately to make sense of. But it's coming from far beyond us. We're now perceiving signals that are coming in through the veil of what was once a veil of illusion. It is now this paper-thin sheath that's barely even there. So we're absorbing light. Now, when I say that, anybody would think, well, that's a fantastic thing. Why would me absorbing more divinity somehow translate to me feeling terrible on the physical level and overwhelmed and anxious and stressed out? Because we don't know how to let love in. We've been separate for so long that we forgot that we're a part of God and a part of the universe and an integral part of creation. We got used to the trauma of separation that we lived in. We called it normal. We called it reality. We even told our friends and our children, you've got to face reality. So we normalized the most abnormal states of being. And it became like this building pressure inside the body. And for some people, that would have even translated to literal pressure headaches. Thankfully, not for me. For some people, it would have just felt like a pressure, like an emotional pressure on the inside. Maybe people experienced inflammation. Maybe they experienced aggravation. Because if you think about something volcanic kind of brewing and building up, it needs an outlet. But you use the word self-isolating. That's what we tend to do. Do you know why we self-isolate? Because we're used to living in isolation and separation. We're used to fragmentation. So how weird, how bizarre that becomes our comfortable place. It makes no sense, but it's known. It's familiar. We retreat to familiarity when we're overwhelmed. So all of this incoming light hits every single day through this veil, and it comes from the sun, and it comes from God, and it comes from the field that surrounds us, and it comes from the support that we cannot see. And our body reads the signal and goes, oh my God, I'm overwhelmed. Our body receives the signal and says, somebody make this stop. No one is meant to make this stop. We're meant to absorb the love, the light, and the support that surrounds us. And we do not realize how much we harm ourselves by seeking separation unconsciously. I mean, you'll know this. At no point did you go, oh, I need to avoid this light that's coming in. We don't do any of this at the conscious level. We just find ourselves retreating. And we find ourselves in a place that we can't make sense of.
Because I kept on telling myself, this is not me. I don't feel this way. This is not who I am and the experiences that I've been going through. And it's like I automatically recognize the shadow of it, the difference, right? And it's like, where is this coming from? And it was like, just not me. And in doing that, it's like you're trying to recognize what it may be, causing, why it's happening, all this kind of stuff. But I'm trying to rationalize something that's outside of my ability.
This is exactly it. So we need to understand what's happening for us at the physical level is also happening for the earth, because we're both physical beings. We're both exposed to light codes, love, and divinity that we could not access before. So look at what's happening on the earth at the level of the volcanic, at the level of the tectonic. We're looking at earthquakes happening, and there will be so much more. And like I said earlier, the same pressure is building within us. But we also forget the impact of an every single day, what I call a shoulder tap on the shoulder. So if you imagine going to sleep at night, but someone's tapping you on the shoulder. You see, our brains say, oh, I must wait for the big thing, like the volcano. Because that's going to be worthy of my attention. Whether it's an inner volcano of my own, or it's an external volcano, we're wired to notice things that happen at the physical level and then validate that. But instead, what we've got is this almost annoying shoulder tap, shoulder tap, shoulder tap. It's the equivalent of God whispering in your ear, and it's relentless, and it won't leave you alone. And this is when we kind of pull the blankets up over our head and try to hide away because we just don't know that we're worthy of this much love, support, wisdom, divinity. We just haven't had access. We just haven't had this connection and this level of communion before. So we're literally avoiding the medicine that's come to heal us. And then that shoulder tap carries on through the night. We wake up the next day, tap, 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 tap. Do you know how exhausting that tuning out is? It's a full-time job. So then we start scrolling on our phones and we start looking for all of these places outside of us to invest our attention because we don't want to notice the shoulder tap in case it's bad, in case we can't control it, and in case it changes us irrevocably, which is exactly what it is doing. Exactly what's taking place for us. And as the divinity that comes through this veil, which, by the way, is also directly linked to the magnetic field at the physical, at the spiritual level, we call it the veil. At the physical level, it's Earth's magnetic field. Earth's magnetic field is measurably weaker and weaker. And it has been weakening for years already, and it will continue to weaken. That's not bad and wrong. That's the veil dissolving, and it's very, very temporary because what's going to happen is a new field of protection is going to be placed around us. But right now, we're in that very weird, disconcerting place, and it feels like our safety blanket isn't there anymore. It also feels like our pineal gland, which is this master gland inside the center, the literal dead center of our brain, is a tiny little rice-sized gland called the pineal gland. And it perceives light. It has rods and cones in much the same way that our eyes do, but it's not designed to physically see. It's designed to energetically see. It's designed to energetically feel. And we thought, those of us who knew about the pineal gland, we thought it's calcified, which means it's inaccessible. And we heard that things like fluoride in the water, we heard that things like negative frequencies around us have calcified this potentially potent field inside the body, and it's kind of shrouded it away from our own access. So imagine, we've got this pineal gland inside of us that is meant to perceive the light of God. And it's in a state of calcification, which is shut down. And what that was doing is it was mimicking the veil that was around the earth, that was separating us from our divine heritage. We had that happening inside the brain. We even had it happening inside the heart. Our heart had so many walls that we didn't even know existed, that we didn't even know that we put there. And both the pineal gland and the heart are two of the most sacred centers inside the body. This is where God speaks to us directly. And these were both shrouded, but now the light is beginning to pierce. And we will feel exposed, and we will feel naked, and we will feel what any human being will feel if they were outside and suddenly realized they didn't have any clothes on. What are we all going to do? We're all going to go, except for Captain. He's going to run around and go, hey, I'm free, baby, look at me. Most of us, okay, I shouldn't have said all, most of us are going to want to cover up because we don't like that feeling. We don't like that feeling of the world seeing our innermost self. We're always in this protection mindset that says, cover up and don't let anyone see. And right now, there is no covering up. Right now, we are going to feel exposed. So I'm so interested in how I hear different people explaining their symptoms, from depression to anger, to sadness, to outrage, to numbness. I don't think there's one symptom that everyone is going to feel.
It's like a combination of all of them at different measures.
Yeah.
And that's what's so hard about it, because you can't just say, I feel depressed, or I just feel exhausted, or I just feel angry, because you've got a level of each one of these things all kind of simultaneously at different measures at different times. It's not even the same as you go through this process. And it's like, one of the things that was really, really important, and I talked to my wife about, is that a lot of this is things that are negative, whether it be anger, hurt, disillusion, frustration. All of these things are coming to the surface so that they can be released. And I told her specifically, do not judge them. Just allow them to sit with you and be released, and release them back to where they came from, and without any judgment. And it's hard to even imagine not having an emotional feeling about something that comes back into your remembrance, but that it's okay and you can go home now. And it's like, what you're doing is that you're making room for the good. We are a organic hard drive, and our body, our cells, everything about us has been collecting and storing all of this data. And to make room for new, we have to allow it to leave.
Absolutely.
And it's like when Christ told us that those that have the eyes to see, those that have ears to hear, he was speaking of the spiritual, of the, not with your eyes, not with your ears, but he was talking about that, your pineal gland. And they spoke that way on purpose, right? And the making oneself new, the renewing of the mind, right? Out with the old and in with the new, because we have to purge. This is what's happening, is we're being purged with love, purged with light. And it's not judgment, it's purification. And that's why we're to just release it without judgment, because we're not being judged on it. We need to be allowing it to just leave.
Absolutely. It's kind of like we just get to give it safe passage out of us and understand that there is this purging, as you said, like a flushing of toxins that we don't even understand and we're not meant to. So like you said, don't judge it, don't analyze it, because then you slow it down and you stop this divine outpour. Listen to these words. I find them so beautiful. A divine outpouring of density. Because we think only light can be divine, but our density when it leaves, which is to say our trauma, our pain, our lies, our illusion, our judgments, that is divinity too. When it is released from us, it is also a divine outpouring, and our job is to let it happen. And if you imagine the sun, because this is where it's all coming from, and I find this such a beautiful correlation. Jesus is the Son of God, the Son. And we say, because we've been taught to say, that our ancestors worshiped the sun. We've been taught that our ancestors were really dumb people. And that, that they lived in caves and they said ooga ooga and they dragged things around and hit things over the head with clubs. I think our ancestors understood way more than we do, way more. And I think they had the wisdom to know that God's light comes through this node point in our sky that we can see that is the sun. They didn't worship the sun. They understood that this is a stargate, a conduit for God's light to come. Just like Jesus, the Son, is exactly the same thing, a conduit through which light comes, and it activates our heart in the same way that the sun in the sky activates our essence and it returns us to love. And if we imagine that that sun is gold light pouring through us, then we've got a perfect visual to allow the divine outpouring of everything that the light discharges without feeling the need to stop and analyze and rationalize. Just let it go. Stand under the light shower and just let it wash you clean.
So with that, there's many people that are not able, and this is what's really important, not able to get out in nature, maybe get out in the sun or in a winter climate where they're at right now, or that light is not as prevalent to wherever they may be. But that isn't a negative, because it doesn't need for you to be directly in the sunlight or in a place where it's at. That light penetrates everything from one side of the earth to the it goes right through everything. Mm-hmm. So those beings that live within the internals of the earth, mm-hmm. they are actually experiencing that sun as well, even though they have a sun of its own. Mm-hmm. Those are connected. Mm-hmm. And that's what people don't really grasp, right? Mm-hmm. And that when God told me one time that when he reveals himself to all and that no one will be able to deny his presence. And I was like, well, in that, what about those that are in coma? What are those that are this or that? And he's like, I am, and all will know that I am. Mm. So those are just things that we perceive as limitations on something that is not limited in any means. Yeah. So we try to put everything in a box so we can understand something, but you can't even grasp those things that aren't even obtainable for us in our mindset.
Oh, this goes so far beyond our words, so far beyond thoughts and what our brain can comprehend. And if we allow that to be so, then we stop trying to put everything in boxes. And we actually let ourselves out of the box, because when we try to contain and control everything to labels and boxes, we don't realize that we need to put ourselves in a box too. Yeah. And if we start perceiving the field around the boxes, then that's our way of letting ourselves out of jail, out of our own enslavement and self-inflicted imprisonment. And we start to perceive of the divinity and the truth that is multidimensional and that surrounds us. And a lot of people say, Kerry, you always talk about this light and God and this wisdom and fifth dimension and realms beyond where we are right now. Why can't I see it? Why can't I feel it? Why can't I experience it? Because the nature of the realm that we've been relegated to is one in which the mental realm controlled us. The mental field was our master. And we learned that if we can't perceive something with our eyes and can't speak it with our mouth, then it's not real. It doesn't exist. I mean, what a great con. Right. Because we can't touch love. And this is the world that we grew up in, the world that said, if you can't name it, touch it, taste it, feel it, it's not real, it doesn't exist. And we've really had to grapple with that within ourselves and come to understand that there is so much more than what our brain can comprehend. And I feel like that's a saving grace for humanity right now. When we resign ourselves to the wisdom that says, I am more than what my thoughts can reach, I am more than my IQ because my wisdom surpasses my intellect in a way that cannot even be calculated. And if we surrender into that idea that there is so much more than we can name, there's a peace here, then we stop trying to tangle with what's taking place on the inside. We allow for it to happen. We allow the cleansing, the purging, the releasing, because so long as we don't stand in our way, this whole process is organic. We stand in our way when we get in our brain, slow it down, rationalize it, blah, blah, blah. So we need to remind ourselves and even each other that there is so much more than what our brains can comprehend, and find peace in that.
Absolutely. And it's like we have to get our head out of the way, because that's what is really the deterrent for us being able to even grow, because we self-reflect, we self-condemn, we self this and that, and so on and so forth. We have a history of everything we've ever done, and we continually, especially when we've been taught judgment. You're going to sit in judgment. Are you going to be able to sit in judgment? And that's been something that's been beat into us our entire life. And it all comes from what you said multiple times, perception. And perception is an account of what you have experienced, seen, and felt in the culmination of your lifetime. And to get out of that is a very, very difficult thing. Why? Because you've got to get out of the mind block. The mind is what is blocking it. And when the word tells us that we have to come to the Spirit as children, as childlike. And what does that really mean?
Yeah.
You don't have all those preconceived things that's been beat into your whole life. And that's why it's so pronounced that children have these experiences that we, as we became older and older, have to grow up, have to put those childish things away, and to continually be more adult-like, which is what? Conforming to the illusion that we've been taught. And that's what's really hard.
Yeah. Age made us rigid. It made us rigid in our thinking. It made us rigid in our bodies. And you look at the way children move, and you look at the fluidity with which they approach life. So when we can be childlike, get out of the linearity of everything needs to make sense, everything needs a word, a label, a name, a reason, and begin to accept the way that children do, that fairies do exist, and there's no limits on the world in the way that we as adults are taught that there are. Because that means then that we're defying the system that we were taught to be obedient to. The entire stint of our school career was teaching us how to conform to the matrix that we once lived in. But we don't live in that same matrix anymore. That matrix is dissolving, and we need to catch up and wake up and realize those limitations that were once my prison, they don't exist anymore. But then what does exist is a limitless freedom that a lot of people are afraid of, and a limitless freedom that, despite our fear, needs to be reclaimed. Because if we don't claim our freedom, then somebody else is going to take it from us. We're looking at the
Sorry, hold on a second. I'm so sorry.
Okay.
That's cool. I'm so grateful that my dogs aren't here, because they would have barked back.
Good watchdogs, but bad timing.
I know.
That's good.
I don't even know where I was. Sorry, that took me out of my train of thought.
No, it's okay. So with that, let's look at what's actually taking place right now and the events that are basically happening around the world. And let's try to put some understanding on what's happening to us in a physical form, as well as a mental experience that we're going through right now, and all that we're being shown with the economic and with the wars and with are those just distractions, or are those things that are a means to an end to bring that complete separation from the old guard and into the new guard, and not to get caught up in what is being shown as the destruction of the old guard, and being that is where we're headed?
That's exactly where I was headed in my train of thought before the dog bark. So thank you so much for posing the question. What we're seeing is the collapse of a false matrix. We're seeing the collapse of a realm of illusion that we were trapped inside of and didn't even know we were enslaved to. And as that collapses, it's going to look chaotic. And as it collapses, it's going to look scary, because things that we thought were going to be forever, and things that we thought were right and kept us safe, like the schooling system we spoke about, the monetary system, all of the systems of the world, the political powers, the way that the world was, the control that we lived under, all of that has to cleanse and collapse. You see, like I said earlier, our body goes through this receiving of higher light, and the earth does too. Our two bodies are doing exactly the same thing. So at the level of politics and finance and illusion, we will see the same cleansing, but it never looks like cleansing. In the same way that your body doesn't feel like it's healing, it feels like it's falling apart. It feels like you're coming apart, but it's not. It's the illusion that's coming apart. It just so happens that we are here to witness that illusion come apart. And as the witnesses, number one, we want it to make sense. And number two, we want it to be tidy. And it will be none of those things. It will not make sense, and it will not be tidy. It will not conform to the way that our world was run before. We are literally birthing a new realm and witnessing the collapse of an old one. And we're clinging so tightly onto the things that govern the old realm, like a monetary system that never made sense, that was never fair, a monetary system that was rigged to keep humanity enslaved. And now look at what humanity is doing. In many instances, humanity is fighting to keep the monetary system in place, to keep their slavery intact, essentially, not realizing that whilst it all comes undone, things will be reshuffled, things will be restructured. Same's happening inside your body. You're being reshuffled, you're being restructured. Same thing's happening externally. And we will see new financial systems birthed. Financial systems that are more fair, financial systems that are based more on tangible, physical, real world things that hold value, like metals. Metals are something you can touch, and there's something you can feel, and there's something that hold intrinsic value. They're not numbers on a screen that are just fictitious and made up. So we're going to see those shifts, and they're going to be very physical, but the transition will look messy. The transition will look chaotic. And this is where we need to be careful to not get caught in the chaos. Allow, in the same way that I said earlier, allow the light of the sun to come through you. Imagine this gold stream of light comes through you. It's coming through the earth too. It's not just cleansing you, it's cleansing the world. It's cleansing the illusion. It's cleansing the lie that we once lived under. So we're not here to, number one, get caught up in it, and number two, to demand that it looks a certain way. Allow is one of the most masterful things, to allow light to come in, to allow light to cleanse, to allow higher frequency to dissolve the lower frequency, to dissolve the old structures. It's one seemingly small, seemingly insignificant little word, allow. And yet it's the difference between navigating what we're going through, this transition, with fear or with love. And we can only allow what is taking place because we trust God, light, love, ourselves, truth, freedom, and we can see that's in charge. We can see in our world that that is in the process of shifting everything, the old political powers that once were. And those who reported, news media being one of them, on those political powers and how they reported it, we can see all of that is in the process of change. We're not meant to give up on the external world and walk away and say, oh my God, it's all in a shambles. We're meant to say, yes, just yes. Thank you that I get to witness this. Thank you that I get to see this collapse. And all the while, as it collapses, to hold light within, to hold love within. So we become the stability on the planet when what we see around us is collapse and chaos. And this will take place for a little while. And this will challenge us and make us question ourselves, our belief, our faith. It's going to turn us into spiritual warriors, whether we think we're equipped to be that or not. Because when we see everything we hold dear falling, we have to turn into that deep place within us that holds that trust.
Yes, and it's like that's why I've referred us to being lighthouses, because a lighthouse stands and shows its light to guide those that need assistance to safe harbor to you, not the other way around. You don't go looking for it. You stand, and you stand in your presence. And when we've talked for years about being prepared, this is what being prepared really meant. You whenever it's time to get food, or like you said in your video, when you know this or you need to do that, that wells up inside of you, that you feel that need, right? Mm-hmm. And the thing that's really important is that all of this is happening because of everything being restructured. The restructuring of supply, alliances, everything is being done in a way that looks very ugly. But when light shines on those things that are ugly, that were in the dark, it is going to be ugly. And you can't sugarcoat it. You can't soften what is needed so that it makes the impression that it was supposed to.
Yeah. All you can do is be the light.
We always want to soften the blow for somebody. We want to minimize no, you need to get out of its way and allow it to do exactly what it's supposed to. And when that happens, then we're there to comfort, support, and to just be guidance, nothing else, because that's not our job to save. It's not our job to change in a person's thoughts or beliefs or any of those things, right? And it's like, well, lies travel and we need to be the counter to the lie. Well, yes, to a certain degree, but truth stands on itself. And when you put truth out, you don't have to chase the lies. The lies end up running out of gas, and the only things left is the truth. So you stand in the truth. If you chase the lies, you're going to beat yourself down too.
Exactly.
It's designed to do that. It's designed to collapse you.
Yeah. You stand in truth as truth. And then you do not become what most people want to become. Most people want to become a force to be reckoned with, like a force field. You become a source field, a source of radiance. And that's when we're truly doing our job and realizing, oh my gosh, I don't have to be God. Because I think a lot of us imagine that we're meant to either save everyone or illuminate for everyone without realizing that the chaos is here. We get to witness it from the center of our own truth, and how powerful that alone is. How powerful you are when you choose silently, quietly to stand in love, to stand in truth as truth itself.
It
There's
has to be
never,
your truth, though. It has to become your truth, not my truth, not your truth, not Kelly's, no one else's. It has to become yours. And when it's yours, you can actually truly stand. But if it's not really your truth, you're being persuaded because of someone else's beliefs, experiences, whatever. It's not really your truth yet. And you don't at that point have the ability to weather the true storm because you haven't been fundamentally planted in your truth. That's
Y'all,
what's so important.
I have a question for the two of you. Speaking of everyone's individual truths, why is it that we're seeing so many chaos agents that are trying to fog or cloud your own individual truth?
exactly for that reason, to keep you away from truth. So you've got all of these influencers that are trying to tell you what to think, and each one more convincing than the next. It's like there are marketing teams behind some of these people in order to convince others. But what they're doing is they're using the weapon of words. And if your truth transcends words, in other words, it's a feeling and it's a state of being, then nobody can corrupt that. But if your truth is stuck in a belief and it's words alone, it's not truth. Like Captain said, it's somebody else's. So all of that attempt at changing people's perception is an attempt to keep people away from the power of their own transcendent truth. And I think that's why, like Captain and I were saying earlier, you got to get out of the box. You got to feel that space, that luminal space that exists beyond words. And then you've tapped into pure truth, which is pure God. It's pure divinity.
And I think then you'll be able to feel it, actually feel.
Exactly. It's a feeling.
Yes. And there's even more layers down from that, is that those things are being allowed intentionally so that people through that chaos and through that darkness can learn how to actually do those things in which they used to be able to do, that has been basically suppressed and eliminated from their life. They have conformed to being told and then following. They have to then break that and be able to begin to start to define what those things mean and how they are being put together. And is it something that they align with? And in that process, they're breaking the matrix that was placed all around everyone. It's just like when you first started waking up. You started to go down this journey of thought, rationality, pattern recognition, different things that people have over time through technology have basically got away from completely. It's like, can you do mathematics in your head? Well, no. Why do I have a calculator and a phone in my hand? I still do them in my head. And my wife is like, hey, this is like 25% off and it's this. And how much is it? While we're walking through the store, and I'll tell her. And, she's like, how do you do that? It's like, I tell her, and she's just like, okay. But the thing that has happened is that the things that have made our lives more comfortable and more easy has actually made us stupider.
Trapped us. They have trapped us. They have 100% trapped us, including other people telling us what the truth is. Right. It's like we've been taught to rely on the calculator, rely now on AI, rely on the voice on the TV that tells you this is what's actually happening. We have to transcend all of that and be the calculator. Like Captain said, I love that example. You have to move beyond the limitation that we were born to and be willing to be a little bit in the unknown, where no one's telling us how to think.
And it's a good thing that this is happening. That's why it's like the roller coaster ride. Those people are intentionally there to break people, because if they don't get broken, they can't be fixed. You can't just continually keep things at bay and not emotionally get to a point where it's like, I can't take it anymore. That purge has to happen. And so all of these different perspectives are actually needed, even though I don't agree with them, because they're not in alignment with me or the direction that I have. But I don't condemn those, because those are actually intentional to reach certain people that you never would any other way. And so that's the hard part. That's the hard thing, is saying, well, why does this actually have to happen? Why can't? Well, because we're all different, and we've all been socially conform to different aspects through our own perception of this matrix that keeps us all imprisoned. And the prisoner is you, and the guard is you. That's the thing, that you've had to finally recognize that that guard is yourself and free yourself from the box. It's like the analogy of the people that were in the cave and the light, and basically they saw the light and the shadows on the wall, and they weren't actually really truly bound there, but they couldn't ever really escape. And then when they did, or anyone did, the controllers didn't care, because if you came back and said, hey, all of this is all outside, you just come out here with me, and they would be like, oh no, we're going to eliminate you because you're actually a threat to our world. And so they didn't have to do anything but just continually allow the illusion to continue. That's all they were doing.
Absolutely. And we're programmed and patterned to crucify whatever comes to liberate us. Well, and the more light and liberation that person brings with them, the deeper the crucifixion. That's what we are programmed to do.
So now think of that, exactly what she just said, Kelly, and then put that into your own perspective and things that's happened to you that you and I have discussed.
Yes, just when she said it was like, whoa, light bulb.
Exactly. So that's why when I've told you these things, it's like, no, don't take those things personally, as the four principles, right, that we have to actually live under, is that we don't take those things personal, because it's not about you. It's about them and what they're going through, no matter what it is. That's the four laws, right? And when we just allow ourselves to be, it starts to change everything.
Yeah.
Be authentic of who you are. And that's the thing is that we all have to find who we are authentically, because we've been being told who we're supposed to be our entire lives, starting with our family. But somebody told them to start with.
And this is what we do. It's all we know, so we repeat the patterns of what we know until there's somebody brave enough to be the pattern breaker. And whoever that is in the family, that person becomes the black sheep, scapegoat, whatever you want to call them. That's what that person becomes, because the family cannot comprehend who you are. Why don't you conform? Why won't you conform? We're not supposed to. We're not capable of it.
Yes. And so I think that's a good place for us to kind of round things out. And Kelly, do you have a couple of questions? I know Kerry's got some things going on, and if you've got something that is directed specifically towards her, we'll give a few minutes for her to speak to us.
Yes, of course. Let's see. This is someone from Rumble asking, my question is, will all of us ascend, and how would we know if we have ascended? Thank you.
No, all of us won't ascend. And I love the question, how will we know? Imagine that you are a caterpillar and you go inside of a cocoon or a chrysalis, and you come out with wings because now you're a butterfly. And you're going, how do I know? How do I know? The answer is because you're flying. The answer is because your entire body has been restructured. It is, in other words, going to be very difficult to miss. You will know that you have ascended. It will not, and I promise you this, it will not happen without you realizing that the greatest change that could ever happen to a human being is happening to you. There's going to be a mass explosion from the sun, a coronal mass ejection called a micronova, great solar flare that comes. It'll be visible. It'll be in the sky. There will be days of darkness. There will be you going into higher states of consciousness, seeing your loved ones, your whole body being restructured, healed, you coming out the other side, literally radiating light. So you might not have the wings of the butterfly, but you're going to be radiating light. If the you that you are right now saw the you that you are in your ascended form, you wouldn't say, hey, that's me. You would say, hey, that's an angel. Or you'd say, hey, that's some masterful being. And then if I was there, I'd whisper in your ear, look a little closer. Doesn't that face look familiar? You'd say, yeah, well, that looks like me, maybe without the wrinkles and the crinkles. Yeah, that is you. We undergo complete biological, physiological, energetic restructuring. You will know that you have ascended. You also won't think the same, feel the same, eat the same, breathe the same. Everything will be completely transformed.
So let me ask you this on top of that real quick, because this is, I think, where a lot of people get confused, is the oscillation between the higher frequencies and then back into lower frequencies and then the higher frequencies, and then them not knowing because of this, right? How that pertains to, am I ascending? Am I not? Why am I still doing this when I should be doing that? And that's not the final separation. That's just the experiencing of higher frequency and timeline versus the lower timeline that's continually trying to drag you back into it. Because misery loves company, right?
Yeah. You get a lot of people that say, oh, we've all ascended already. We're in the fifth dimension. And I got to tell you, that's a heap of hogwash. But I will say this, we can access, we do have that ability. We can access fifth dimensional consciousness now. That doesn't mean you've ascended. It means you have moments of transcendence that you can integrate into your physical now and your physical body, and you can bring into the illusion, which helps to dissolve the illusion and is an imperative part of your purpose. But nonetheless, when you go to those higher realms, which you can do in meditation or prayer or stillness, you go to those higher realms, it doesn't mean that now you have failed because tomorrow or in an hour's time you're depressed or you're angry. As Captain just used that perfect word, oscillation, we will go in and out and up and down, and we will feel enlightened one moment and completely stupefied the next. And that's just part of the journey, because we need to bathe in light and then bring the light into the density. Bathe in light, and then bring the light in. We will keep doing this, in and out, in and out, in and out, until that's what Ascension is. It's the final shift point where there's no more in and out. It's just a lock in of that higher state.
Wow, that's awesome. Okay, there's a lot of questions asking what to expect on the new Earth and what it looks like.
Nothing like it does now.
Yeah.
I mean, you still have the trees and the land and all of the physical structures, but they're alive, they're interactive. So the closest thing that I could say would be a representation of it is, what's the movie that they do all of the different ones with the they get into their little bodies where they can go to
Avatar.
the other Avatar, where they have the experience, the avatars, the people, they have that connection to the land and environment. That's the closest thing. And I think that whole movie is like another Matrix type thing to reveal to the people what it is in the higher realms, because it is all alive, all interconnected, and we are connected to it in that same very way. Everything is everything is illuminated, and I'm not talking illuminated in lights. It's all illuminated in a completely different mindset than the way it is now. We look at everything as just being solid, so it's kind of dead, even though it might not be dead. But it's like looking at the woods right there. The life that it is its own. I can't even hardly explain it because you have to experience it. That's why when we go into the higher realms, we begin to be able to communicate through telepathy because it's more experiential than words have those limitations. It's like great writers can use words and passages to bring forth your imagination. But when we get into higher realms, that's what you do by the way that you communicate one to another, because words are limited, very, very limited in our communication skills then.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that, Kerry?
Oh, absolutely. And I would add to that whether we call it New Earth, my word for it is Eden. That's just semantics, what we call it. New Earth is much bigger than the Earth that we live on right now. It's still in the same place. It's in the same location. But imagine it as if our whole planet exhales and lets itself return to the full size that it once occupied. And this means trees will be bigger and they will hold. And I think Avatar really did have something to it, because they will hold light. You will see the sap inside the leaves, inside the trunk, as a luminous field of consciousness. And you'll see the same thing in yourself and your loved ones and everybody around you. And it will be that light that unifies us to all things and reminds us that we are one intrinsically connected consciousness. And in that space, war, for example, is not even a concept. It wouldn't even be a debate. It simply wouldn't be. It cannot coexist. Division and fracturing cannot coexist in a state of wholeness. And that's what New Earth is. It's not just what it looks like, it's what it feels like. It feels like home, the place that we originally come from, the place of truth that we never lost contact with.
So whenever we talk about the size of the earth and the different realms that are outside of our accessibility right now, will in the new earth or Eden, or however you want to perceive it, it's your own experience, those will all then become accessible again. And in doing so, everything is connected in a way that we will remember the old and we will value the new in a completely new way.
Yeah, definitely. Because this is something that a lot of people ask as well. Do we remember who we were before we ascend? Yeah, absolutely. You will still carry your same name. You will still carry your same biology, just in an upgraded version of you. You will hold the memory of the realm that we once lived in, and many people will come to learn from you, because many people will come to our earth once it has ascended in its Eden state. They will return here from other galactic realms, and they will say to you, how did you do that? And you will tell them, I was here. I was one of the original inhabitants of the illusory realm. And they will say, how? Tell us your stories. And you will be a soothsayer, and you will be so revered because of what you've walked through, that you're in the process of walking through right now.
That is a beautiful way to end the conversation. We're a little over an hour, and Kerry, I know you had your family to tend to, and it's just been amazing. I know everyone that has been listening has just been enjoying it so much, as well as I have been.
Captain.
I love you so much, Kerry. And
I love you too.
to talk to you again very soon.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody. It was beautiful to be with you.
Yeah, Kerry, thank you. We love you. And we love you all out there. You all have a great day.
Absolutely. Oh.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, Kerry.